First of all, when it comes to this name, I just talked about how awful companies name their phones. This OnePlus Nord is going to be called the Nord N10 5G. What a name. What a name. We can't just call it the Nord or the Nord N10. It has to be the Nord N10 5G. So it's coming to the US with a Snapdragon 690, a 90 hertz display for under $400. The very first thing I thought about when I saw this article title was, this is going to be competing directly with the Pixel 4a. When they say under 400, are they talking about $399? Are they talking about $379? Are they talking about $349? Will it compete directly? Will it be a direct price competitor to the Pixel 4a? OnePlus Nord N10 5G. That's an awful name, OnePlus. Please, hire me. I will name your phones. Any phone company can hire me. I will name all your phones, and everyone's gonna like it. While the Snap 765G based OnePlus Nord didn't debut in the US, OnePlus clarified that it would launch another variant in the country at a later date. My question is why? Why can't they launch the OnePlus Nord with the 765G in the States? Is it money? So instead of a 765G, they are settling on a Snapdragon 690. Is that the end of the world? I don't know. I took some time to take a look at the benchmarks, but we're going to go into that after we go through this article. We can now confirm via an insider source that OnePlus is planning to release a new model in the Nord series in the US later this year. The phone is dubbed the OnePlus Nord N10 5G. That is, God, that's its internal code name is Billy. Let's just call this the OnePlus Billy. If we called it the OnePlus Billy, that's going to be a lot easier to remember than the Nord N10 5G. And it will be the first OnePlus phone to offer a 64 megapixel camera at the back. The phone will be powered by a Snap 690, Qualcomm's first Snap 600 series chipset with 5G connectivity. So if we're going to talk about comparing it to the Pixel 4a, right off the bat, the 690 will already be able to tout the fact that it has 5G on it. So take that for what you will. We've discussed this many times. Yes, I'm not the biggest fan of 5G, but that's because it's not mature yet. It's not fully deployed yet. It's not at its prime yet. And I think a lot of people are fawning over 5G when it isn't the thing to be prioritizing just yet. But it is faster, technically, on paper, than 4G LTE. I just don't know how much faster, how much availability you'll be able to get that speed. And at this point in time, I don't know if it's completely worth it just yet. So the OnePlus Nord N10 5G, God, I hate saying that, we'll have a 6.5-inch display with a 90 hertz refresh rate and an FHD plus resolution. So I'm gonna keep kind of like going back and forth here because I have the Pixel 4a. We're gonna talk about how it compares. So the Nord N10 5G will have a bigger display, 6.5-inch versus this 5.8-inch. So if you're a fan of a bigger display, if you want a bigger form factor, that Nord N10 5G will fulfill your fantasy will fulfill your need for a bigger display. Also, it's going to have a 90 hertz refresh rate. Whether or not that makes a difference to you, you get a higher refresh rate. We can also confirm that the base variant of the OnePlus Nord N10 5G will include 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of internal storage. So the exact same amount of RAM and storage as the Pixel 4a. So if we look at this 730 versus the 690, you'll see that, all right, in terms of CPU performance, it's showing here that the 690 offers higher benchmark scores. Does that mean that it inherently is just better overall? Most likely not. Most likely something that you're not going to notice, but on paper and in pure performance, raw power numbers, this looks like it has an edge in terms of CPU performance. But you can also see it here in terms of GPU, a higher GPU score as well. It's not by a lot. It's not like a huge difference, but I can't say that the 690 is inferior to the 730. Do you know what I'm saying? If anything, they're very comparable to each other. So in terms of battery life, the 690 gives you just an inch, what is the word? Whatever, a little more performance battery life, or a little more efficiency. And then the overall score, the 690 looks like it does have a little bit more performance overall over the 730. So the 730 though has a higher clock speed, 2200 versus 2000, or 2.2 gig versus 2. And then the pros of the 690 is it is a newer chipset announced a year and 3 months later. It shows better in the Antutu score, but you can see here there's a 12% increase over the 730G. The big difference here though is in the modem. So the N10 5G will be capable of 5G, and you'll see here it was announced in June of 2020. Again, if you're looking for an ultra wide camera, the OnePlus Nord N10 5G, God, what an awful name, will give you a little more versatility when it comes to its shooter. So it'll have a main shooter, but it'll also have an ultra wide lens, and the Pixel 4a does not give you that. But let's be real, the Pixel 4a will probably still give you better camera quality overall, at least in its main shooter, because it can't do any ultra wide shots. But if camera isn't your top priority, then maybe that's not going to matter. Maybe that's not even a factor. But I will give it to the Pixel 4a still in terms of its overall quality for photo quality. I mean, I can't say that for a fact unless I did a real like side-by-side comparison, but we all know that the Pixel lineup is really good when it comes to photos and, in a lot of respects, video still. Is it going to be a phone that will outperform the Pixel 4a? I don't think so. I don't think this is going to like bury the hatchet for the Pixel 4a. Bury the hatchet. That's not the term. Will it put it in its grave? That's the better term, but that's not even a real term, I think. Well, what I'm trying to say is I don't think the Pixel 4a is going anywhere, even with this OnePlus Nord N10 5G coming to the States. I don't think it's gonna be the demise of the 4a. The 4a will still give you an excellent camera. It'll give you stock Android, and that's something OnePlus has been moving away from. So if you're not a fan of what OnePlus is doing lately, changing their whole, their whole outlook on stock Android, this is another reason to kind of move towards a Pixel phone. There are people who are moving away from OnePlus phones because they don't like what's happening with OnePlus, and them saying, well, no, we're going to give you a better optimized version of Android. Well, Android 11's out right now. I don't know if it's out for OnePlus at the moment. Is it? Is Android 11 out for any other manufacturers at this moment, or is it just Pixel phones? I think depending on what this price point's going to come at, it'll still be a decent phone, but I have a feeling I'm still going to recommend people to the Pixel 4a. I still don't think 5G is worth it right now. I still don't think that is the number one reason you should be buying a phone. Now, if you want, we can't even talk about speed. I'm pretty sure the 4a and the Nord N10 5G will perform similarly. I guess if you want a bigger display, you want the ultra wide cam, and you want 5G connectivity, you have the option, which is good. Options are good. It's good to have competition. It's good to have all of these companies putting this competition in the market. I'm happy to see OnePlus bring it here. I would have been happier if the Nord, the original Nord, The OG Nord just came to the States instead of like, yeah, let's make another variant for the US because money. I don't know.